In this next story coming from Wales, Caitlyn Thomas, 23 years old, from Cardiff, took police on a high-speed chase through the area after she was driving a car that she shouldn't have been because she was disqualified, and she was also using false plates. She eventually crashed after driving up to 70 miles an hour in residential streets, and she has been jailed today for 10 months. PC Mike Williams said it was evident in the shocking dashcam footage that Thomas's driving was very dangerous. She drove into oncoming traffic, failed to stop at red lights, and drove at 70 on residential streets. She eventually lost control and was detained by police officers, and it was a miracle that nobody was hurt. She was later charged and remanded the next day and pled guilty to dangerous driving while disqualified and failure to stop for police and driving without a licence. And in some other news, staying in the Wales area but going to Swansea, 2 men who were selling drugs have been jailed after they tried to evade police. Arif Ali and Tanvir Ali, 20 and 21 years old, were arrested in May 2023 after a large amount of crack and heroin was found, worth in excess of £11,000. The pair were seen in parked cars in Kings Road car park in Swansea, and the stash was inside the vehicle. The police approached the VW Golf and they made off and made an attempt to escape them. A short pursuit later, they crashed into an unmarked police car and nearly flipped over the car. The police said this was part of Operation Ortega to try to battle drug dealers on the streets of Wales and to take drugs off the street as well. So really look forward to hearing what viewers have to say on them 2 stories. And in this next story coming from Wales, in Bridgend, a police officer has been jailed for 160 child sex offences. He has been given a life sentence to serve a minimum of 12 years after being convicted of 160 offences involving children. He was a serving police officer at the time. The investigation started in December 2022 and police revealed intelligence about suspicious transactions and online activity relating to the downloading of indecent images of children. They tracked the address to Bridgend and they arrested 23-year-old Lewis Edwards, a serving police officer. A warrant was executed and they took his computers, and he was immediately suspended from the police and he later resigned. He was charged with 160 offences, which included inciting children to make indecent images and engaging in sexual activity. He pled guilty to all charges and was sentenced to a minimum of 12 years at Cardiff Crown Court. I look forward to hearing what the viewers have to say on that story, and don't forget to send your stories to news@scarcitystudios.com and contact today if you want to promote on any of the platforms throughout the Christmas period. I'll be back again very shortly with some more news. Peace.
It's every parent's worst nightmare, isn't it, to be told something like this has been happening to their child. I'm at loss for words, really, the impact. I know that there are some young people can't reconcile that the person that they were speaking to online wasn't this young man of a similar age to them, that they were having what seemingly was a nice conversation to begin with that turned into something incredibly clandestine, just vile, abhorrent behaviour, the things that he asked them to do. And I don't think we will truly know the full extent of the impact that this has had on those young people.
The offending by Lewis Edwards was absolutely despicable, and I know that the public will be as appalled as I am that they were committed by a serving police officer. As soon as it became clear to us that he was an employee of South Wales Police, we took action to immediately suspend him from duty. We then ensured that as soon as possible we convened an accelerated gross misconduct hearing to ensure that he was sacked from South Wales Police and removed from the service. I've spent a great deal of time with frontline colleagues of Edward's, and I'm struck by how surprised, shocked, traumatised they are by the fact they worked alongside him whilst being unaware of what he was doing in secret. When he was recruited into South Wales Police, there were very thorough, tried and tested vetting processes that gave no indication that he was committing these kind of appalling offences.
We received some intelligence, it was Christmas week last year actually, and it was in relation to some financial transactions using Bitcoin that had been used to purchase child sexual abuse imagery. So that was a financial line of inquiry that we needed to work through to try and identify who was making those purchases. In the new year we received another piece of information. This was in relation to the uploading of images again via Snapchat, and that information and intelligence needed to be developed as well. Now both those pieces of information, they give us different lines of inquiry and avenues, and the second piece of information, the Snapchat and the uploading, that the inquiries led us to an IP address, and we did some further work around that IP address which led us to an address in Bridgend and the name of a person. We were able to identify that that person was paid salary-wise by South Wales Police. So we then did some internal inquiries with our own payroll and HR systems, and we were able to then identify that this was Lewis Edwards, who was in fact a serving police officer. I'm quite shocked really, shocked on a couple of levels. First of all, he was a police officer, so he was a colleague of ours. That was the first shocking piece. But then, once we'd carried out the enforcement activity, and we saw at the scene was described by my digital forensics colleague as being complex. So we knew that there was a very sophisticated network here, and the person responsible was very savvy when it came to all matters IT. It took 2 or 3 days, in fact, for us to properly capture and download all of the evidence at his home address to make sure that we didn't lose any vital evidence which would go on to help identify offenders, but more importantly the safeguarding of all the young people involved in this investigation. But from very early on we could see from the file records that very meticulous records have been kept, and as we've done further examinations it's gone into the thousands of not only images but also videos as well.
When I was at that scene I found a computer tower, and inserted into that computer tower was a hard drive. Upon reviewing the tower, when I was looking through the folders and the contents, I found potentially hundreds of folders in names of potential victims here. My realisation from looking at this and looking into the folder structure was that this hard drive had been mounted or inserted into that Linux machine, and this is where all the contents were stored.
Due to the quantity of images and videos, the time it takes to look through at a fast pace, but also making sure that we identify any avenues for victim ID. And we ended up working on just reviewing the media for 2 months, 2.5 months. We noticed that the suspect was conversing with victims over the Snapchat application. Using a screen recording software, then he was able to record his interactions and any media they sent him. Any video calls or stuff like that was then saved directly to his phone then, without alerting that Snapchat user, the victim, that he had recorded anything.